Imagine standing in a Roman battlefield. Thousands of soldiers around you, shields locked, swords ready. The air filled with dust, sweat, and the sound of marching boots. Then suddenly, your commander gives an order. Advance. But you know what that means. It means running straight into enemy spears. It means a fight where many soldiers will not return. Now imagine doing the unthinkable in the Roman army. You refuse the order. For most modern soldiers, refusing an order might mean prison or a court-martial. But in ancient Rome, refusing an order could lead to something far more terrifying. Something designed not just to punish you, but to terrify the entire army watching. In this video, we'll uncover the brutal truth about what happened to Roman soldiers who disobeyed commands, and why discipline in the Roman army was so terrifying that many soldiers feared their own commanders more than the enemy. The most feared crime in the Roman army. In the Roman army, discipline was everything. The strength of Rome didn't just come from weapons or numbers. It came from absolute obedience. Every soldier was expected to follow orders instantly, without hesitation, without question. Because in Roman warfare, even a single soldier breaking formation could destroy an entire battle line. A Roman legion fought like a machine. Shields locked together. Rows moving in perfect rhythm. Commands shouted and obeyed in seconds. If one soldier refused an order, panic could spread through the ranks. And panic on a battlefield meant defeat. That's why the Roman military treated disobedience as one of the most serious crimes a soldier could commit. Even small acts of defiance could bring brutal punishment. A soldier who argued with a commander, ignored a command, or refused to advance into battle could face public humiliation, savage beatings, or even execution. But sometimes, the punishment was far worse than a simple execution. Rome had a method of discipline so brutal that soldiers prayed they would never witness it. A punishment designed not just to kill the guilty, but to send a message to every man in the legion. It was called decimation. And when Roman commanders ordered it, even innocent soldiers began to tremble. The horror of decimation. The punishment was called decimation. And in the Roman army, it was one of the most terrifying punishments ever created. The word decimation comes from the Latin word decim, meaning 10. But what it meant in practice was far more brutal. When a Roman unit showed cowardice, refused orders, or fled from battle, the commander could punish the entire group. Not just the guilty soldiers. Everyone. First, the legion would be gathered together. The soldiers accused of disobedience would be separated into groups of 10 men. Then something horrifying would happen. The 10 soldiers were forced to draw lots. One of them, chosen completely by chance, would be marked for death. But the execution would not be carried out by the commanders. Instead, the other 9 soldiers had to kill him themselves, using clubs, stones, or their bare hands. Imagine standing in that line. 9 soldiers surrounding the unlucky 10th man. A man who might have been their friend, their tent mate, someone they had marched beside for years. Yet Roman discipline demanded something terrifying. If they refused to kill him, they would all die. So the soldiers carried out the punishment themselves. Brutally. Publicly. And the horror didn't end there. After the killing was finished, the surviving soldiers were often punished further. They were forced to sleep outside the camp walls, without tents. They were given barley instead of wheat, a humiliating food usually fed to animals. All of this served one purpose: to send a message through the entire Roman army. Disobedience would not just cost you your life. It could cost the life of your friends. That fear kept Roman soldiers loyal, even in the most hopeless battles. But decimation wasn't just a myth. It actually happened. And one of the most famous Roman generals in history once ordered it. To restore discipline in a rebellious army. A commander feared by his own soldiers. a man who believed terror was the key to victory. His name was Marcus Licinius Crassus. And what he did next shocked even the hardened soldiers of Rome. When a Roman general actually used decimation. For many soldiers, decimation was a nightmare story. Something commanders threatened, but rarely used. But during one of Rome's most dangerous rebellions, a Roman general decided fear was the only way to control his army. That general was Marcus Licinius Crassus. And the rebellion he faced terrified the Roman Republic. It was the slave uprising led by Spartacus during the Third Servile War. At first, Roman armies repeatedly failed to defeat the rebels. Entire legions were humiliated. Some soldiers even refused to fight. When Crassus took command, he saw something dangerous. His soldiers were afraid of Spartacus, but not afraid of their commanders. So Crassus made a terrifying decision. He revived the ancient punishment of decimation. After one Roman unit showed cowardice in battle, Crassus gathered the entire legion. The soldiers were divided into groups of 10. Then they drew lots. Every 10th man was chosen to die. And just like Roman law demanded, their own comrades had to beat them to death. Imagine the silence across the Roman camp that night. Hundreds of soldiers forced to watch their friends die. Killed not by enemies, but by their own brothers in arms. But the message was clear. From that moment on, the Roman army feared disobeying orders more than they feared Spartacus himself. And the strategy worked. Soon after the brutal punishment, Roman discipline returned. The legions began fighting harder, more aggressively, and more obediently. Eventually, Crassus crushed the rebellion. Spartacus was defeated, and thousands of captured rebels were crucified along the Appian Way as a warning to anyone who challenged Rome again. But even with victories like this, decimation remained extremely rare. Because Roman commanders knew something important. Punishments that brutal could control an army. But they could also destroy morale. And sometimes, Roman soldiers who refused orders faced punishments that were even more personal and humiliating. Punishments designed to break a soldier's honor, not just his body. And the next one was so humiliating. Many Roman soldiers believed death would have been the better option. Fustuarium, beaten to obedience. Decimation was extreme. But the Romans had other punishments, sometimes even more humiliating. One of the most feared was called fustuarium. It was a punishment for soldiers who showed cowardice, desertion, or disobedience. Here's how it worked. The soldier would be stripped of his armor and forced to stand before his entire unit. Then, armed with clubs or sticks, his own comrades would beat him mercilessly. It wasn't about killing him immediately. It was about pain, shame, and terror. Every blow was a message. Obey, or this could happen to you. Sometimes the beaten soldier survived, but his honor was destroyed. Other times, the punishment was fatal. But humiliation didn't stop there. Soldiers who fled from battle or refused orders were sometimes forced to wear rags instead of uniform, and parade through camp shouted at and mocked by their brothers in arms. Imagine being a Roman soldier, watching a friend stripped, beaten, and mocked, knowing that one long move could make you next. Disobedience wasn't just a crime, it was a personal, public nightmare. The fear of decimation or fustuarium was more powerful than any sword or shield.